Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. The Canadiens lose 5-3 against the Buffalo Sabres and what was a really big game for the Canadiens to win, but unfortunately they just can't quite get that win. It's definitely concerning. Obviously, the Buffalo Sabres now pull into 3 points behind Montreal for that third Atlantic spot. Boston also, in that exact same position. They're only 3 points behind us as well. So, the same saying as it's always been, recently is just we got to get as many points as we can possibly get. Everybody in the Atlantic Division is pushing right now. Everybody is winning games. The Canadiens cannot be the team that falls behind and starts losing. As we look at the standings right now, the Tampa Bay Lightning are on an 11-game winning streak. They're not slowing down whatsoever. Detroit, they just lost a game recently, but they're still 6-3-1 in their last 10, the same as us. Buffalo 8-2-0 in their last 10, a 2-game winning streak. Boston's on a 5-game winning streak, 7-2-1 in their last 10. Toronto 7-1-2 in their last 10. And then let's not forget about the two-time Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, who really aren't that far behind either, only 8 points behind us. So there's so much competition. There's so much reason for the Canadiens to win these kinds of games. And unfortunately, the Buffalo Sabres get the better of us in this one. And it's just one game, of course. Obviously there's still plenty of season left. We're only at game 48 after all. But we got to find a way to start getting some more points and start being a little bit more consistent as a group. And I'm not seeing that tonight. I think there's just some missed opportunities for sure. And obviously there's other factors that go into it. I think the Canadiens, generally speaking, played a pretty solid game in this one. Obviously they weren't able to keep up with the offense of Buffalo. And of course, Tage Thompson had a 5-point night in this one. That really was the difference maker. Hat trick as well as 2 assists in the night. So he was all over the map in this one. Obviously he either scored or assisted on every Buffalo goal in this game. So obviously you got to give it up to him on that one. But yeah, it's just a frustrating one. Obviously you want to come away with, the 2 points there, especially when you're playing against a team who, is desperately trying to claim your spot in that Atlantic Division race. We gotta keep moving as a group and find a way to keep winning. Otherwise, looking to the game, of course, Cole Caulfield scores in the opening, couple minutes there is his 22nd goal of the season. Noah Dobson gets the assist, his 21st assist of the season. Cole Caulfield it's on a 2-1. He takes a shot, doesn't go in, and then he picks up his own rebound and tucks it back behind the goaltender there. So a good way to start the game, but discipline comes back to bite the Canadiens in the ass in this one. Tage Thompson and Josh Doan score back-to-back goals in the first period, both on the power play. I just feel like, whether they're good calls or not, I feel like the Canadiens are putting themselves in the penalty box a little bit too often this season. And our penalty kill isn't exactly stellar, especially with Jake Evans not being in our lineup right now. So we have to be a little bit better discipline-wise, in my opinion. But, at the same time, we had our chances on the power play as well. And speaking of those chances, a 5-on-3 goes the way of the Canadiens. Of course, as I mentioned, Lane Hudson gets back on the top unit, on the top power play, and all of a sudden the Canadiens are scoring power play goals. So what do you know? Lane Hudson assists on both power play goals the Canadiens get in this game. The first one coming from Ivan Demidov. He gets his 11th goal of the season. Hudson his 38th assist, and Suzuki gets his 37th assist of the season. So once we get this actual top power play line going, and I don't know why we're switching things up, but we switch things up in some other games it doesn't work. We go to this one in this game and it works out wonderfully. Ivan Demidov gets an absolute blast from the left side there, or the right side, and he's able to put that one home. And really nice shot from him. And then into the second period, 3 minutes in, Nick Suzuki scores his 15th goal of the season on the power play. Is able to put home kind of like a rebound scramble in front. Lane Hudson gets his 39th assist in the season in that one, and Cole Caulfield gets his 23rd assist of the season on that one. So, the power play solid, and then, the Buffalo Sabres just kind of storm back and put this one out of reach for us after a while. Alex Tuck and then Tage Thompson puts in 2 more, one of which on the empty net, but and it's tough. I mean, there's really nothing you can point out. I mean, obviously we can be a little bit more disciplined and all that kind of stuff, but the Buffalo Sabres are just playing out of this world right now, and you got to give it up to them. And, obviously this is a Habs fan channel, but I do think the Buffalo Sabres making the playoffs would be a really cool thing. So I am happy for them in the way that they're playing, but, not at the expense of the Montreal Canadiens, of course. But, they just play the better game. They were able to put more their goals, in than we were. And that's really, that's how you win hockey games, is score more than the other team. And they did exactly that in this one. And there's really nothing more to it. I feel like Fowler played an okay game. I mean, obviously he let in 5 or 4 in the empty net was the 5th one, but like we had our chances as well. It's just, the puck luck went their way. They played a little bit more solid. Obviously, like outshot us by a couple there. So it's tough the way it goes. The Canadians need to find a way to be a little bit more consistent, be a little bit more offensively threatening at all points in the game. And I think the Buffalo Sabres just had the edge in that category as far as just being a little bit more threatening throughout the entire game. The Canadians can only defend for so long. The defense of the Canadians, I feel like, has been wavering a little bit recently. I feel like Alexandre Carrier has not been as solid defensively as he once was, going back to when we acquired him last season. Obviously, Caden Gooley is still kind of, ramping back up the pace. He hasn't played in a little while, so it's understandable. But I feel like it might be, it's something to look at as far as trading goes, especially considering all of the pieces the Canadians have. I feel like it's, definitely something to look at, that maybe we trade for a guy who, can play a little bit more of a shutdown defensive role. Obviously we've been looking for that, 2C all year, and I feel like at this point I'm not sure that that's ever going to come, but we'll have to see what happens there. But definitely a consideration to put a little bit more defensive oomph into our game, if you will. I know there's been talk of like getting a guy on defense, or just getting some size, some size and some age on this team that might help them a little bit down the road. I personally think back to the 2021 playoffs, and what made that team successful, and I feel like there's definitely a lot of reasons that are obvious, like Cole Caulfield playing incredibly well as like a not even rookie playing on that team, and Suzuki playing well, and like we had Lehkonen and all of those guys at that point. But I feel like that team definitely had some older guys on that team. There's definitely some veterans playing on that team. Shea Weber comes to mind, of course, a big defensive player. I can't help but wondering if that's something that is missing from this Canadians team, and if we were able to acquire a guy like that, maybe it would change the perspective of things a little bit. We'd have a little bit more comfortability in the defensive zone, and a little bit more of a physical presence, which is obviously something that the Canadians lack a lot, is guys who are just size in general, and the ability to put the physical game on the opponent's end. So that's definitely a consideration as well. But there's so many things, and the other thing that's still frustrating to me is the 3 goalie rotation system. Like, it feels like we're right back in 2023 or whatever that was, when we had Jake Allen and Montembeault and Primo just sorting out. And I feel like the problem with this system is that I feel like all of our goalies are playing cold every time they go in. I feel like Montembeault, I think, is getting biased a little bit, playing a little bit more than the other guys are, but I feel like Montembeault isn't in, and he's still shaky in my opinion, even when he is in. But like when we don't have him in and we're playing one of our other guys, it's like they're playing for the first time like in 7 days or something like that, and it's like I feel like it's really hard to expect the Canadians to have success at the goaltending position when all of our goaltenders are like fresh off of the press box or the bench or whatever, because they haven't been playing. I just feel like, for the sake of, our team and development and all that kind of stuff, I feel like it is time for one of these goaltenders to go back down to Laval. I honestly don't even care which one it is, even if it is Montembeault. Just somebody needs to get sent down for the sake of just getting things going back to where they need to be, and just having 2 goaltenders that are ready to play, every time that we're out there. And it feels like, not to their fault really, but it feels like, like every time that they get out there, they're just a little bit cold. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that one. It'll be interesting to see, how things go leading up to the Olympic break here. Obviously, that's coming up in like a month or something like that. Mid-February is coming up quicker and by every day, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see where the Canadians sit in these standings as that comes. And obviously, there's going to be a trade freeze that comes with that Olympic break. So it'll be interesting to see if, like they did previous to Christmas, if they make any moves there and try to make the team a little bit better. But yeah, that all remains to be seen. So that's pretty much all I have for this one. It's a tough loss, but the Canadiens just need to find a way to get as many points as possible. You know, just continue to find a way to fight, and because as I mentioned, every single team in the Atlantic Division wants a playoff spot, and we are not comfortable with the position that we're in. You know, obviously we got what's turned into kind of a rivalry night on Saturday in Ottawa against the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa sitting, at the bottom of the Atlantic Division right now, which is kind of a shocker in my opinion. I feel like, they definitely have not been that bad, and obviously they were really solid last year. Obviously some goaltending stuff going on with them as well, but they're still an over 500 team. They have 49 points, so they're only 10 points behind us at this point. So it'll be another big game against an Atlantic Division opponent that the Canadiens need to find a way to get those 2 points in. So that's all I have for you guys on this one, and I will see you after we get those 2 points against Ottawa.